Did you say he could fight any Trump supporter?
Yeah, he says he kicked, and they're scared of him because he could fix a truck. Like they're threatened by his masculinity. I know how to fix a truck. That's what he said. I'm like, do you? I bet you don't.
The lady doth protest too much.
I bet you don't.
I fear.
I bet if I bring a broken truck to you and a bag of tools, you're f***ed.
This is the guy that wants to be your vice president, calling the #1 entrepreneur in America that gay guy. You understand how weird that is? You just call him that gay guy?
That gay guy. You've never said that. You've never said that.
Adam, how do you feel about that gay guy comment that Tim Walz just made?
Joe Rogan and Patrick Bet-David just launched a scorched earth blitz on Tim Walz that left the Minnesota governor's political career looking like it walked into traffic. Rogan was fire, raw, relentless, and surgical. Patrick, cold steel with bullet points. They didn't debate. They detonated. From crime waves to business suffocation, they torched Walz's record like a soggy pinata at a demolition derby. If leadership were a scoreboard, Walz just lost in surround sound, complete with fireworks and face palms.
Have you ever seen that video?
No.
This is what people love about Donald Trump. The fact that he would say this.
But unfortunately, Governor Walz isn't here himself, but don't worry, he'll say that he was. He's going to say he was. I used to think the Democrats were crazy for saying that men have, period, but then I met Tim Walz.
For the common sense questions. They're not ready for the simple questions. And when he just sat there when he had no answer, and then he didn't understand the question, and then he said, what do you want me to say? And I'm like, oh my God, you're never going to be president. You will not be running in 2028. You're done.
Well, I don't know whether, it was because of that question or not, if he would ever be president, because the way he handled himself in the debate with J.D. Vance, that was that's probably the worst debate performance I've ever seen, aside from Joe Biden's debate with the president, the first one where
Joe Rogan didn't punch. He obliterated. What started as commentary morphed into a full-contact rhetorical cage match. Rogan dropped logic like uppercuts and sarcasm like elbows. He was the fighter, the ref, the announcer, and the crowd begging for blood. And Walz. He looked like a guy who thought he signed up for Zumba and ended up in the octagon.
We were getting scary close to people justifying totalitarian measures.
I think we need to push back on this.
Tim Walz in the campaign trail was literally saying free speech doesn't include hate speech and misinformation.
There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
Hey man, you. Because everything that we called misinformation just a few years ago, it's on the front page of the New York Times now that we were lied to.
Senator, thank you. Governor, you previously opposed an assault weapons ban, but only later in your political career did you change your position. Why?
Yeah, I sat in that office with those San Diego parents. I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. Look, the NRA, I was an NRA guy for a long time. They used to teach gun safety. I'm of an age where my shotgun was in my car so I could pheasant hunt after football practice.
Okay, so that was one of the ones that
That's like I think he misspoke, but to say that I'm friends with school shooters, like we hang out on the weekends. I tell them not
friends with a
school shooter.
So that was one of them.
Rogan kicked things off by gutting Walz's leadership style, if you can even call it a style. It's more like roulette with a podium. The guy runs the state like he's choosing policies out of a hat labeled oops. Pandemic response. Rogan said it was less science, more spin the bottle. One day, lockdowns tighter than Fort Knox. Next day, open for business, with rules that sounded like frat dares.
If you can play this, the audience is deeply concerned about your question. Go ahead, man.
What is a woman? What is a woman is the question.
I'm not sure I understand the question here.
Well, that...
So what do you want me to say?
I want you to say that a woman like me is an adult human female, that men can't become women. You guys are the party of violence, and you're the party erasing women. You don't respect us. You're a bigot. You're a misogynist. You're a sexist. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Rogan painted Walz's COVID playbook as a bad escape room. Blindfolded, outdated clues, and every door locked. It wasn't public health, it was improved theater with a side of panic. No consistency, no direction. Just a man guessing gaslighting, and hoping no one noticed the scoreboard.
And he was 100% right with Tim Walz.
I know I'm doing something right when the Fox News crowd is all bitching at me like crazy. Like, I'm loving it.
That guy was almost the vice president of the United States.
Elon Musk was crying last week. Tim is being mean to me, basically, you know, like, yeah.
I'm sure you've seen that thing where it shows Obama saying, I need a vice president that's dumber than me.
He may or may not have cognitive decline problems at his age, but at her age, she's just dumb.
Then came the hypocrisy. Big box giants, open for business, mom and pop stores, sent to the guillotine of regulation. Rogan nailed him. It felt like Walz was testing how fast you can kill small businesses while keeping the no mile at Target wide open. His decision-making was pure chaos, like a magic 8-ball that just got dumped.
Wife, soon to be, she's trying to make sense of her argument. Are you buying her argument? Go ahead, Rob.
You know, if kids are hungry in school, what that does to brain and learning, you're not going to learn to read. So if you're talking about learning to read and closing gaps, then you better take away the barriers for that. If that's tampons, then that's tampons.
Play that one more time. Like,
It's not even registering.
Listen, I have 4 kids, and they've made some arguments that they try to really
tried to do my homework.
Stretch and spin. Is there a greater spin job than Rob? Play that one more time, by the way. It's a little painful, but
And the hiding. Rogan dismantled Walz's favorite trick, hiding behind expert panels. No leadership, just delegation to bureaucrats who needed their own babysitters. Press conferences were TED Talks in disguise. Health mandates. Rogan compared them to a CrossFit coach with a hangover, aggressive, irrational, and possibly a danger to the public.
If that Tim Walker, if that guy got into power, like if Kamala died and Tim Walz, Tampon Tim, was our fucking president, you know how crazy this country would be? That weirdo who puts tampons in the boys' room. And what about our Joy? Like, he's a complete pathological liar. Like a complete liar. Lied about being in Tiananmen Square, lied about being a fucking...
But COVID was just the appetizer. Next came education. Under Walz, Minnesota schools went from top tier to educational limbo. Learning loss skyrocketed. Teachers flailed. Students became beta testers for bureaucratic guesswork. Then came the crime surge, straight out of a disaster movie sequel. Rogan summed it up: bad leadership, worse policies, and a governor who thought photo ops counted as policing.
Question for everybody. How often do you talk and say something like, hey, Vinny, you know that gay guy? You ever talk to people like that?
Never.
I'm just curious, do you talk like that? Do you talk like that? Maybe you're watching this, you're like, I don't want to admit to it because I'm sitting in the bathroom watching this, but just yesterday I told my brother that gay guy. Okay, maybe that's you. That's okay. But guess what? Don't feel bad. Because somebody that's about to be your vice president also says that regularly. He says it so regularly that it's slipped up.
Then Patrick Bet-David stepped in, and the tone shifted from roasting to execution. No jokes, no fluff, just a PowerPoint in verbal form. Patrick said Walz governs like leadership is a gig he's trying to quit. Every crisis, met with a slogan. Every failure, buried under buzzwords. Walz isn't leading, he's hiding in the branding department.
They bring in her, and they bring in this other guy who's radical from Minnesota. That's the vice president, who he believes a lot of wild things. One of them is transgender surgery for people who are under 13. Another one is abortion up until 9 months.
Ooh.
Yeah. He changed the Minnesota state flag to make it look like the Somali flag. That stuff scares the fuck out of people.
Patrick called him the human version of a paper jam, always stuck, always jamming up progress. Decision making. He waits to see what everyone else does, then fumbles after them. In economics, Walz turned Minnesota into a bureaucracy graveyard. Taxes shot up. Services stalled. Opening a lemonade stand. You'd need permits, prayers, and a government-approved juice recipe.
Jobs, we were pitted into a hunger game against our neighbors to find toilet paper. That's how bad it was. So now, I suppose it wasn't too bad, thinking back to that economy. If you're a billionaire, Elon Musk, for example, say, that guy got Michigan knows that word. Look, that dude got a tax cut and the rest of us got shafted on.
He paid $11 billion in taxes, Tim. How much have you paid in taxes?
Then Patrick dropped the hammer on Walz's obsession with looking thoughtful instead of being effective. The guy spends so much time pretending to deliberate, by the time he acts, it's too late. Leadership isn't about long words and staged empathy, it's about action. And Walz governs like a man who thinks email blasts count as progress.
It's just weird in how avoidable it was.
100% avoidable, but pathological liars, people that are habitual liars, they just lie all the time about everything.
When the state needed backbone, Walz showed up with a folding chair. During the riots, as cities burned and businesses begged for help, Walz hosted pressers that had all the urgency of a brunch reservation. Patrick summed it up perfectly. Leadership is what you do when it matters. And Walz, he handed the MIC to someone else and checked his lighting.
One of my favorites was that Tim Walz tried to claim that his wife got pregnant through in vitro fertilization, and she said that's not true. So he lied about that.
Some of you might have heard this. This is very personal for my wife and I. When Gwen and I decided to have children, we went through years of fertility treatments. And I remember each night praying that the call was going to come and it was going to be good news. The phone would ring, tenseness in my stomach, and then the agony when you heard the treatments hadn't worked.
The First Lady of Minnesota, Gwen Walz, revealed that she underwent a different fertility treatment, not IVF, called intrauterine insemination.
What a weird guy he was.
His wife had to come out and say he was lying. That guy lied about everything. He lied about being a head coach. He was an assistant coach. Lied about his military rank. Lied about whether or not he served in a war.
Patrick wasn't done. He dragged Walz's public safety record through the mud. He doesn't launch programs, Patrick said. He launches brochures. While cities spiraled, Walz rolled out hashtags. He didn't fight fire with water, he used a PowerPoint and a smile. Meanwhile, censorship grew. Rogan exposed the chilling part. Dissent under Walz became dangerous. Questioning policy meant getting labeled a threat. Rogan compared it to a hall monitor with a messiah complex. No freedom, no humor, just enforced obedience wrapped in virtue signaling.
Dumb.
Biden and
I think
Biden
I was
saying
that
I
on
need
your,
a vice president dumber than me.
Great. Kamala Harris may be the dumbest person ever elected vice president in American history.
Kamala saying I need a vice president dumber than me. It's Walz. Men have tampons.
We have a lot of accomplishment. We haven't taken adequate credit for it, frankly. We got to do a better job of getting the word out about what we have accomplished and who did it.
You got to lose because we got to break this.
And then came the finishing blow. For all of Walz's expanding government, the one thing he never expanded: results. Infrastructure crumbling, crime rising, schools declining. But hey, the press releases are polished and the headshots look great. Rogan called it governing by illusion, loud promises, empty follow-through. Together, Rogan and Patrick didn't just roast a governor. They revealed a blueprint for failure. The laughs, real. The damage, deeper. The warning, clear. Tim Walz just became the case study for what happens when politics goes off autopilot and the public finally opens their eyes.